Day 9 arrived and I found myself wielding a brand new beard, yet again. I walked over to Gnome God and thanked him for this day and thanked him for this beard. And then I began to head out for another day of adventures and exploring. I planned on going to the southeast part of the map to discover what I would find there. I'm sure there would be plenty of different things that I could find. Hopefully some food and some more interesting supplies, and maybe some clue as to where I am and or how I could get out of here. So I headed along the main road and began to make my journey, only stopping every now and again to gather a few supplies that stuck out to me, or things that were just close enough to the road to pique my interest. The road looped around and I found myself kind of going in a bit of a half circle. Kind of redundant to whoever designed this road, but then again, oh well. I continued along the road, kind of pondering who even made this road. I mean, there's no sign of anyone inhabiting this place other than that one pig-type guy. But, I mean, he couldn't have designed all this. This is just way too complex for a man of his stature, I guess. I mean, obviously they didn't have any sort of construction crew out here, because it's just a path, but still. It piques my interest wondering who made all this. This whole world is just so strange and makes me ponder. Checked the map again and headed out after eating a nice lunch of corn. Picked up some more seeds that I could use for the farm, and continued to head east on the path. I found myself at a cobblestone path going south and north. I decided to go south, figuring that worst comes to worst, it would come to a dead end, and then I would just go north again. But I had a good feeling about going south, because that's the direction I was heading in the first place. Passed by some beehives and continued into a dirt biome. Found another one of those suspicious tracks, but ignored it, figuring that it wasn't the time for that. And then I realized that the path came to an end. Out of frustration, I ran around in a circle a little bit just to get my feelings out. That's how I express myself. Well, in the old days I used to express myself and my frustrations through eating, but I don't exactly have that capability right now. Well, food shortages is a little bit of a problem. So anyways, I headed north on the path, and continued the way I was going to go on the cobblestone road, figuring it would probably take me somewhere of some place of interest. Hopefully. The path headed to the northeast, and I so forth followed, running across brand new areas of unexplored territory, full of trees and flowers and random carrots sticking out of the ground. It was all quite lovely and peaceful. There were also a bunch of more beehives. But then I came across something interesting. It was a white stick with what appeared to be an eye on it. I picked it up, feeling that it was a bone. Then I heard something. I looked around, and then I saw it. A giant fuzzy monster running after me. I panicked so much I flipped the world a couple times. Then I headed on the path. It was chasing me. I wasn't sure what to do. It was probably going to eat me or something. I had to run. It was probably like one of those fuzzy spider things that attacked me the other day. I was panicking. The road ended, and I felt like it was going to catch up to me. I kept heading east, hoping that I could just get away from him. Maybe he'd lose interest like those tall birds do. Or maybe that... I don't know. I just kept running. I followed along the coastline, finding some berry bushes. I had to ignore them, though. Then I came to a dead end. It was getting closer, and it stopped. I wasn't sure what to do. I slowly approached it with my spear in hand, and then I touched it. It just kind of sat there, panting. I decided to feed it some of my cooked monster meat, and it ate it. And then it just sat there panting again. I was still uneasy, so then I shoved a bunch of manure in its mouth. He ate it. He didn't seem to mind. It's kind of gross. Although it made me hungry, the fact that I was feeding him stuff, even though I wouldn't want to eat any of this. I reached into his mouth and just pulled out the monster meat, seeing as he didn't seem to have chewed it or digested it or anything. I then presumed that he was not going to eat me, and continued on my journey. He seemed to follow me. I presume something to do with this eye that I picked up is somehow connected with him. Maybe it's his eye. I mean, I could believe that. However, how does he, like, know which way I'm going? I don't exactly think I could possibly understand that. Although, I think that's overthinking things. The point is, he eats stuff, and he doesn't digest it, so I suppose I could use him to carry a couple of my items. I mean, I'm sure I could probably do something in return for him. I'm not too sure what he'd want. I mean, maybe he'd just like it if I shoved more manure down his throat. Anyways, I passed by some ponds, and a bunch of frogs started coming out. And I had originally intended to possibly go fishing there one day, but all those menacing frogs just kind of creeped me out, so I decided to get out of there. I decided to head home, figuring I could take the road all the way back. So I headed out, walking past the beehives and such, hearing my new companion bouncing around. I stopped on the path and enjoyed a nice dinner of meatballs before continuing on my way. It had been a very interesting and adventurous day, and I was looking forward to just getting back to the base and hopefully trying to make sense of some more things. I scanned over my inventory and then continued on the path. I then decided to create an axe, figuring that I could probably use a bit more wood for the fire once I got home. I had the time to do it, so I figured I might as well. I took one of the medium-sized trees, and with 10 chops, it fell down. I then chopped down another one, taking another equal 10 swings with the axe. I then took out my shovel and dug up 2 stumps, knowing that the shovel probably could not last any longer than what I was about to do. And I was right, it broke. Really getting very good at predicting this stuff. So, I headed to the west again, continuing my journey home. The woods seemed very different at night, creepier. I found some seeds on the path that weren't there before, so I picked them up, figuring they would be fresh. I then strayed from the path, figuring I didn't need to waste my time with that loop around. So I just walked from one side of the road to another. I'm pretty sure on a normal highway that would probably be illegal, but I didn't care. This isn't a normal highway. I went to my stick farm and realized that all my sticks had grown in at the exact same time. That was very convenient, so I picked them off, gathering a whole bunch more twigs. I also saw that there was a rabbit caught in the trap, but I left it there for now, figuring I didn't quite need it. I walked into my camp and introduced the gnome god to my new buddy. Wasn't sure if he had a name or not, although I figured he was just like a big furry chest, so maybe I'd call him Chester. That's a nice name for a pet, right? Anyways, he just sat there panting as I harvested crops and replanted the seeds. I then headed to my base, where a crock pot had just filled up with meatballs. I then looked at the stuff I could possibly build. There were a whole bunch of new things I could potentially make, but nothing I was exactly too interested in needing right now. So I went back to the camp as night fell. The fire was getting low, so I added some logs to it, and it was nice and warm again. I looked into my chest, wondering if there was anything here that I could possibly store. I mean, my inventory was filling up, and probably didn't need all of these things. But I wasn't too sure what I really wanted to put into the box. So after a bit of thought, I walked away from the box, and then it occurred to me that I could probably store the silk in there, figuring I didn't need those on hand. And that was it. I then saw my little box friend sleeping there. And I then spent the rest of the evening looking at the map, figuring that I would probably head south tomorrow to figure out all the new stuff I could potentially see. I ate some more food and awaited morning time. Before I left for my next journey, I took whatever scraps of food I had left and threw them in the crock pot, figuring I could use them for cooking later on. Then the morning came. I decided to have a shave, and then got ready for my journey. Chester didn't exactly recognize me at first without my beard, but seeing as I still had his eye bone, he knew it was me. I moved on, heading south. I took out my walking cane, figuring it gave me an extra skip in my step, and I'd probably cover a bit more ground using it. Me and Chester traversed along the landscape, stopping occasionally to pick out every little supply every now and again. There were a bunch of things out there, grass and sticks and trees and carrots and stuff. The usual things that I'd find. I'd wondered if I had been here before, and then I saw that skeleton I remember before, and knew for sure that I've been here. So I headed into the new territory. I passed a couple berry bushes and decided I would definitely take some time to pick up most of those, seeing as I could always use berries. I mean, they were food, and I always needed food. So, all is good. Plus, berries are very good for you. They're very high in vitamins and nutrients, and part of this good breakfast. So I continued picking the berries, enjoying my own calm solemnity amongst me, Chester, and the woods. Picked some more berries, now realizing that my numbers of berries were going extremely high. I quite enjoyed that. Gathered up another red mushroom, figuring I could probably use that for cooking, even though I knew in my gut that picking mushrooms and eating them was probably a very, very, very bad idea. But I didn't let that bother me for now. For now, I had lots of berries I could pick. They looked delicious, and the numbers of them were just piling up. I probably had 10 piles of berries. That was a lot. I heard squawking ahead of me, and all that in the berry bush that I was just picking in, there was a turkey. I have no idea how I missed that, but I tried to chase it with my spear and kill it, but it was much too fast. I'd probably need a better strategy to be able to kill it. So I continued my berry picking and continued on my way, also collecting a few seeds. Following the coastline, I began to discover where I had been and where I had not. So I figured I'd follow this coastline and see if it would take me anywhere interesting. I walked on, Chester bouncing annoyingly behind me, making springing sounds with every jump that he made. I wondered why he couldn't just walk, but I realized he probably didn't have the best legs, considering they were just little stubs of whatever. He's definitely an odd creature, and one I had never seen before. And honestly, his existence didn't make sense. I mean, he didn't technically eat, or digest, or have any sort of process of getting nutrients. So I'd presume Chester was either solar-powered or magical. Potentially magical, considering the world that I was in, and I didn't see any solar panels on him. I then found the path that I was on before, and since I hadn't found anything to the south, I figured I'd head northeast to see what I could find there. Presuming there would probably be something interesting around there, right? Followed along the coastline, passing a bunch of the usual things, the carrots, the trees, the sticks in the grass. I then found the coastline again, and followed it along, presuming I would only find more water, but figuring it was worth a shot. I then came across a rocky area that was kind of a bit of a land bridge, similar to the one I was currently living on. I crossed it, and it took me into a darker dirt biome, where I found another road. It split off into two, and I decided to take the lower road, seeing where it would take me. It took me to a berry bush. That was nice. Then I continued along the road. As I continued to walk on, I began to see one of those houses again. I remember that from before, and there was a pig thing sleeping there. It was kind of creepy, so I decided to push it while it slept, and it got mad at me and yelled at me. I felt kind of bad after that, so I left, thinking I would leave him alone from now on. I headed north, and soon stumbled upon a bunch more of those houses, full of sleeping pig things. It was really creepy. But what was creepier was what I found in the north. It was like a giant pig, except where it was fat and ugly and splotchy and just disgusting. I decided to keep away from it, figuring I had no business with him, presuming he was probably king of this tribe of pigs. Other than that, there was not a lot going on in this village. I mean, they just had very similar looking houses, the king's throne area, and a patch of flowers. So I figured I would continue on with my journey. I began to enter an area that had spider infestations. Figured that probably wasn't the best, and this probably wouldn't be the best place to spend the night. I found a funny looking rock, and found it suspicious, but I didn't feel like exploring it right now. Picked up a couple stray stones, and continued heading north to see what I could find. Found more spiders, a few more pig houses, and a lot of trees. And a berry bush. Evening would be coming soon, and I was kind of on my own, so I figured I'd probably be camping out here tonight. If I was going to camp out here, though, I definitely have to get rid of this spider net. So I put on my log suit, dropped my spear, and began attacking all of the spiders, figuring I could probably take out this nest pretty easily. And as of right now, I was right. However, my inventory was full without my backpack, so I stored some silk and my walking canes inside Chester, and continued to beat the nest to death. There were no more spiders in it, so I was good. And I took out the nest with no problems. However, I began to hear more spiders, so I ran after them, figuring that the hunt was on. However, he kind of ran away, so I didn't bother. But then I found that he started attacking Chester. I wasn't going to have that. He's my companion, not his. So I killed that spider, and then a bunch more came after me. Oh crap, reinforcements. I found myself surrounded, getting constantly bitten by all the spiders. I swung violently, just stabbing whoever I could. The spider bites continuing and getting worse. Eventually all the spiders died though, but then more came along. I stabbed those too. I felt like I was in a chain of never-ending spiders and began to worry that this was it. This is where I was going to die, being raided by a bunch of spiders. But I didn't give up yet. I just continued slashing at the spiders. My armor was getting weaker, and so was my spear, but I didn't give up hope yet. I continued to collect the supplies that they had dropped and just continued stabbing them. Then there was a break amongst the spiders. I had a feeling that I was safe, but I probably wasn't because there was another spider coming along. I quickly set up a campfire and then attacked the next spider that came along to attack Chester. After that, there was another moment of peace. I took a deep breath and just sat by the fire before I started chopping out a tree for more logs. All the spiders were dead. I found myself in a very panicked state, also quite hungry and covered in spider bites. I decided that now was a good time to probably get some dinner going. I roasted a bunch of berries and ate them. I felt a bit better and it helped fill my stomach a bit. I then took a look at my map. I was definitely far away from home tonight, although I figured I'd spend at least tomorrow, if not the next day after that, exploring this new territory, just to see what I could see. I'm sure there'd be something interesting around here. Began to cook up more berries to eat, figuring that I might as well. I had so many of them and they wouldn't be going to waste. Eating the berries made my stomach feel better and also helped soothe the pain of the spider bites. I looked into Chester and figured I'd give him my manure in trade for a walking stick, and also decided I'd put that spider gland and the berry bush in there, opening up a bit more space in my inventory. After that, I remembered I had meatballs, so I stored them in my inventory for later and waited for the next day to come.